Out. It's recording. So today I have a guest, top M&A entrepreneurs, DeAnna Rogers, and I call her the glue because you'll see her at all the interviews, all the courses. Here's DeAnna. Hi, DeAnna.
Hi, how are you, John?
Yeah.
Nice to be here.
Thanks for joining us. I had something with Chris Daigle earlier, but I guess the traffic at the airports is so crazy now that you can't fly around. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm at home. I'm not at an airport, so I'm good.
Good for you. Good for you. So let's get started now. I got to kind of go back a little bit about how you got started with this whole legs and then to Epic and how long you've been working with Roland and what's that been like?
Yeah, I'm happy to give you my background. So I used to own my own event company. I had a company called AMG, Affiliate Mastermind Group. And we taught event planners how to run events, how to do joint ventures, how to get like affiliates, and how to grow your business in your event using affiliates and masterminds and things like that. And so I did a lot of more, I was in the real estate space more so. I worked with Roland Frazier because Roland Frazier at the time was speaking on a lot of stages in the real estate space. And so I knew Roland very well. And I had my own company and I started doing events for event planners. Now, my events were about 200-ish person events. And I had Roland and his partner, Perry Belcher, come speak on my stage. And then they came and spoke to my mastermind. And then a year later, they decided that they wanted someone to come in and kind of run their events for their company in traffic and conversion and all those. And so they brought this opportunity to me, and I've been with them on that side of things for about 9 years. I've worked with Roland closer to 11, almost 12 years. So, but with this in this capacity for about 9 years.
Oh, that's cool. So when you joined them, you were still doing real estate affiliate programs, events, or did they just say, hey, we need you in this area now? And
I moved full time. So I was doing my own events. I was doing my own mastermind, my own joint ventures. I'd written 3 books. Was
3
staying
books.
I was staying very busy. But I knew that if I ever wanted to scale to the level, and obviously if you know Roland Frazier, he's got such a vision. He's a big visionary. And I wanted to scale with him. I wanted to do these bigger events than 2, 3, 4, 500. My biggest event at that time was, I think, 800 people. So I wanted to scale. I wanted to get to that 10,000 person event, which is what we've done. And I've been so blessed to be able to work with people like Roland Frazier and Ryan Dice and Perry Belcher. But I knew that I had to transition that. And so I joined his company 9 years ago.
Yeah. Did they buy you or just kind of was an acqui-hire?
I still actually have the company. I don't do anything really with it. We basically, I had a partner that finished out any additional contracts that we had out. The company is still, I mean, I can still do things with it if I wanted to. I haven't, just because I've been so busy. However, so yeah, I finished out, I think I finished out like that last year. And then I just didn't take on any more new clients. So
Yeah. So when did Roland bring this legs? I guess it was called legs on the first one, right? The very pilot program. And then he changed it to Epic. Yeah.
Yes. So we started that almost 3 years ago. And we were going around, we were doing them in London every quarter, and we did them in Vegas and Austin and San Diego. And we were doing legs. It was leverage, exit, grow, and scale was the name of it. So legs. And we were teaching that in like 2-day classes. And we would get anywhere from like 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 people in a room, depending. And we try to keep it really small because Roland likes to make it very interactive. So I think our largest was like almost 40 to 50, but he preferred that 25 to 35. And so we would just go around to different cities and do these legs classes. And so much fun. Got to meet so many people, got to do so many different deals and get to know people and grow in that legs portfolio that we had at the time. But then obviously COVID happened, and so we couldn't do events anymore. But the training was so essential, and we felt like if there was any time for people to be learning this, it was this time. And so we had to pivot. I know that that word is used a lot, but it had to be pivoted to what could be done virtually. so that people could still be utilizing that content, but in acquiring businesses while people are still working from home or that are afraid to get out. Or so we moved the name over to call it Epic, Ethically Profit in Crisis, and so it became Epic instead of Legs. And then he's just tweaked it along the way, made it so much better.
Oh,
Added these.
I gotta say, it's just boom.
It is
Everybody
mind
I talk to, it's
blowing.
like
It
boom.
is.
It is like, it is awesome. Yeah.
It is, and I will say, we've seen so many other people out there that have done it, and I've never seen anyone that does it quite like what Roland Fraser does. So
Yeah. Back to the legs thing. It's interesting that you guys really brought in early on really heavy hitters. I mean, the guy from real estate and all the other guys were just big heavy hitters. I guess you went to the Ryan Dice group and digital marketer, and the big heavy hitters joined early.
as far as speakers or
Well, not as speakers, but people that go through the course and say, hey, I need to add this. Yeah.
We hit our friends and family list first on the very first launches.
Yeah.
So obviously those are people that are in our wheelhouse, our friends and family. So they were the first ones to jump on and go through the program with us. And now we scale it out to everyone. But our original first 2 cohorts, which was in April and May of last year, that was more internal to the people that we wanted to see that would go out and do this program with us. So yeah, you saw a lot more of our friends and family, more so than just other clients that we've acquired through media.
Yeah. Now you're on Epic 14 or 13?
We're on 13 right
13.
now.
I'm going to date this. This is no longer evergreen if I say this.
But we're doing them. We're continuing. Yes.
Yeah. This is awesome. You guys have created an incredible deal flow. I think for your group too, but all of a sudden the knowledge shared between everybody in the community. I mean, I'll give you an example. I went to Sharon Brown's virtual coffees where she has these breakout sessions. And I mean, I just like learn more from listening to whatever somebody else is working on.
Yeah, if you look at the Epic alumni group, there are so many incredibly talented people in that group, Sharon being one of those as well. So yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you about what you've done on the side. Now you were in real estate and and I heard you mention this, talking about you're buying properties and now you're turning into Airbnbs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How many have you done of those?
So we're going on our third. So we're working on it. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So I looked up things like the economics of this, and it didn't really give any numbers, but what's important is the profit potential, the right location, competition, and upkeep and expenses. Where are you buying these properties?
So right now, currently, I will tell you, we are currently buying on the coast of Texas. So there's a place called Port Aransas. It's down by Corpus Christi. We've been buying property there. So we did buy an existing home. It was literally about 100 yards from the ocean. And so it was a person's second home, and we've turned it into an Airbnb. And it is, we bought it in November or December of this last year. And by January, we posted our very first Facebook post before we even did paid media. And we had filled it up with one Facebook post with $18,000 worth of business with one. We knew it was a hot commodity because people can work remotely. So they're willing to go to the beach and work in an Airbnb and be on the ocean while they're working. And, so we knew that was really important. And so, so since then, we've bought a couple more places. We're buying land now and then going to build is basically, we bought in the same neighborhood. So our family's bought 2 more. So there's a total of 3 on that strip. And the one that we just bought 2 weeks ago is actually right on the ocean front. It goes directly from the pier over.
Definitely going to go for a higher price, right?
Yeah, so definitely did. But I will tell you this. So, we did put a couple $100,000 into fixing it up and making it, but we automatically, when we did the evaluation, we already had what we put into it into the house. Like it's crazy how just since November to now, how much that property has gone up. And we are doing about 90, we'll do between 80 to $90,000 in recurring revenue each year. So it pays for
Pays for
itself.
itself.
Doubles.
Yeah.
It doubles the pay for itself. Plus the equity in the property has gone up already 3 times on what we wanted. So for us, it just made a lot of sense to keep doing those properties. Now, what we are looking for also now, because the beach homes are quite more expensive than what you would find anywhere else if you go by. They're probably 3x more than if I were to find a house in Houston or San Antonio. So what we are
Yeah.
looking now is also across from hospitals. So any type of home in the like it crossed from like a major cancer center or a major transplant hospital. And what brought that up was because my husband had a liver transplant that from my son, and so we had to rent a home for quite a while. And rather than staying in hotels, we wanted to rent an Airbnb, but we wanted to be across from the hospital because I had to be with my husband and my son in the hospital at the same time. So in our whole family and dogs. And so we just transplanted our whole home for a couple months. So what made us think about that was, there's a lot of other families, transplant families, that would prefer to stay in a home instead of being in a hotel during those medical times. And so and you can get homes a whole lot cheaper than on a beach home, like, and so, and then we could do the same thing, buy those homes, flip them, turn them into Airbnbs and make an instant profit.
Yeah.
And so the margin is a lot better there. So that's our next properties that we're looking at right now, is like across from like Houston and MD Anderson, San Antonio at the transplant hospital, Dallas transplant hospital. So any place like that we feel like children's hospitals where parents need to be, where their kids are, and having it to where it's a place for them to go and call home versus being in a hotel.
Yeah. Well, first question is, how's your husband and your son, I guess? Yeah.
They're both doing well. That was 2.5 years ago. And my son,
Okay.
my son gave up 67% of his liver to my husband. So yeah.
So you only need 43% of your liver to.
Well, it grows back. It
Oh, it
just ain't
does?
enough.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
So
Yeah.
there was, yeah. So the person that's the donor, his liver grows back. So
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I'm glad to hear they're doing okay. Good.
yeah, thank you for asking.
So on these Airbnb, back to these beach houses. Now I know that you have to, this is what I read, that you actually have to furnish them yourself. So you go in there and design them. Yeah.
So we go in and so you have the shell, and we go in and we furnish it with everything from beds to pots and pans to linens to towels to all, I mean, think about everything that you would have in your home,
Everything.
beach
Yeah.
towels, everything, dishes, knife, utensils, coffee mugs, like you have to just literally walk through every room, washer and dryer, all those things. And then you take the top of that and you're like, okay, now how can I make this an experiential place? So like what we've done is we've created, we put a golf cart with it, and we've created wagons so they can go to the beach. We've done, sand toys for children and beach towels so they don't have to worry about things like that, and toys. We did a barbecue pit. We added a pool and we did a heated pool. So that way, if it was cold and rainy at the beach, they've now got a heated pool. And so we've added new elements that makes our home a little bit sexier than the other places along the strip. And so and then we created it as a Google business. So people now, rather than going through management companies, they're Googling where to go stay in Airbnb. So we are getting about 3,000 hits a month on our one property.
Are you using some of the expertise you kind of
course I am.
The power from digital marketer go,
of course I am.
Yeah, of course you are. That is awesome. So you're getting 3,000 hits already.
A month.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're booked solid for the rest of the year. Like that's why we want to build more houses quickly, is because we don't have enough space. Like it's booked solid.
And how is this like when you're financing this, is it just a regular mortgage, or is it kind of a different type of loan from a bank?
You can only do 2 homes with your mortgage, and then you have to do it as a business. So we've created it under our SPV as a business. So we have an SPV that's our Rogers Capital Investment, which is our SPV, and then everything that we buy with Airbnbs falls underneath that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what's the goal for you and your family? Is just 10, 20 homes in Airbnb?
I don't know. I think it really depends on what we see the market as. Right now, real estate's hot. The problem is it's a seller's market and not a buyer's market right now here in Texas. So
Yeah.
we're paying kind of top dollar.
I know
Whereas,
Texas knows about ups and downs, don't they?
yeah, and the thing is like, for example, a lot of land. Seriously, the lot of land in August, just the lot without, the house on it was running about 200,000 just for the lot, and now it's about 600, 700 just for
Oh
the
my
lot without no house. So it's very different, because it's on the ocean. It's right there at the beach.
God. Yeah,
So it's, we're being very careful with that because it is more expensive. Whereas in that's why we're looking at other places as far as, investing in places across from hospitals, because that you can get a house for like 200,000, 250, 300, like nothing hardly, and then flip it. You'll spend maybe 20 to 30,000 flipping it, if it's already in a decent shape, and then you can get it on the market within 60 to 90 days, and then you get your recurring revenue instantly,
yeah.
like just like that. So
Now, that's kind of like an experience you guys went through for the hospital thing and wanting to be close to the hospital. So, at night you want to go get food for your husband or whatever it was. Did you also do some research or this is trending towards Airbnb or how?
no, it
Yeah.
was just because we've experienced it, so it made us think. Like, we because when I did look, I was actually in Australia when we found out that my husband had to do the surgery real quickly, and so I had to like fly home and pack my son and my husband up.
That's not a quick fly home
No,
though.
it was not. It was 24 hours. But on the flight, luckily, I had a lot of time to be Googling where to live for the next couple months. And so, we packed up our family and our dogs. And I wanted to, if I was going to be there for a long time, I wanted to be in a house and not in a hotel. So I looked at Airbnbs. And what was great was I was looking for how close could I be to that hospital. So that way, if my husband or my son had any issues, I'm right there. If I want to go home, take a shower, if I want to go cook, if I'd like to just be in a home environment instead of a hotel.
Yeah,
And
there's
so,
a hotel here close to the hospital, and it's just it's one of those hotels like man, you don't want to spend any more than just a weekend there. Yeah,
and people don't, and you don't think about it when it's just a hospital stay. Hotels are fine. Nothing against hotels, but if you're an extended for any reason with a loved one that's in a hospital for a long period, you don't want to be. It's more expensive to be in hotels, and then you have to eat out every meal, and you can't have lots of family like with with the house with the Airbnb. You have 4 or 5 bedrooms, and you can have a whole family stay with you. You have dogs in the back.
yeah,
We had our
dinners
three
and
dogs.
dinners and
We
yeah,
had dinners, and we had our dogs with us. We didn't have to board our dogs for 2 months. And so just things like that you don't think of, that is very important to a family. So for us, we experienced it, so we knew that is something that people will be looking for. So to us, it just made sense. That's what we want to invest in.
that's a really important point to tap into, emotions and trends and changes. That's really important. And I like a lot of that comes from hanging around this whole digital marketer and environment and Roland Fraser. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing too is just looking at, like, again, and also looking at trends. Like for us, we're also looking at Brackenridge, Colorado, because it's a great ski place, and
Yeah.
the prices of log cabins up there are not that expensive. You can get a log cabin for about 450, like whatever that number is, right? So, but then you have to look at the math and go, well, it will probably only be booked 5 months out of the year. So the math has to work if it's only going to be booked during seasonal times, whereas if you're at the beach, it can be pretty much the beach, like at Port Aransas, is
Year
about 80
round.
to
Yeah.
90%, right? At a hospital, you would think it could be 80 to 90% because year round.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at those places of where we think those hot markets would be, it although seasonal is amazing, and what might trigger us to still do that is because, personally, we may want to have a beach home and, a home in Colorado, and we can personally just write it off and we have it when we want it. And then we rent it when we
Yeah.
don't. But if it's strictly just for business purposes, for our investments, we're probably going to stick to more of anything that can be rented. We made a family decision. If it can be rented more than 75%, we'll buy it. So that's kind of what our our numbers were. If we think that this house can be rented for 75% of the time, then we will buy it.
Yeah. And now with 3,000 leads come in, I'm just curious, do you put it in Airbnb and like for sale by, what is it?
No, we
For
do
rent by owner?
VRBO.
Yeah.
No, we do VRBO, Airbnb, Google. But where we're getting the most is we're just driving our own traffic. So we created our own Facebook page. We have our own website. We drove all of our own, organic traffic, and it got filled. We do have a management company right now. Not positive that we're going to stay with that company, because out of all of them, they only booked one. We've booked all of the business ourselves. Now, I don't want a job, so we did the management company just so that they have to mess with it and not us.
Yeah.
But you can always find someone local if you wanted to pay someone local to do it cheaper, probably, than a management company. So
And is
there's
that,
ways to look at that.
yeah, is that management company also, I mean, when somebody leaves your Airbnb, they got to clean up and check
Yeah,
whatever.
there's also you have to look at every city. Every city does have laws that allow for short-term rentals. Some places will allow you to have a short-term rental without a management company. Some places won't. They require you to have a management company because within, I believe it's within 5 miles or 10 miles of your home. That way, if something were to happen, there's a management company close by to take care of that property. So it just depends on the location, Houston, San Antonio. You have to look at the city, what the requirements are. But management companies are typically going to charge you 20%. And so you have to know that going into that. Whereas Airbnb and VRBO is 3%. So if you can do it by yourself and save 17% override, that's where you want to save that money. So
Yeah.
you have to look at all those little things when you're looking at, what am I all in for? And what am I going to make as a profit on this? Do you want that 17% margin to be given away, or do you care? It may be that you don't want another job. Like for us, we chose not to this year because we didn't want another job. We wanted someone else to handle that, but we also negotiated. What we did is we went in and we pre-booked everything. We did one Facebook ad, got about 20K,
Just one.
one, and got almost 20K in business. Went to the management company and said, "We'll drive our own business. You drop your prices." Well, when they saw that,
That's a pipe wrench. Yeah.
but when they saw that, they were like, "Oh, well, would they rather have 10% of everything we have or zero?" So they said, "Okay, we'll do 10%." And because it was a no-brainer. We were giving them money. Like
Have you
we had
thought
done all
about
the
buying
work.
the management company?
Well,
Well,
I'm actually thinking about creating one, starting my own
okay.
and competing against them. So
Yeah.
I hope nobody on that group sees this, but I don't think that, I think there's a lot of money to be made there. That's got a high
Well, so it's
markup.
like that makes so much sense. I mean, who said it? You buy your costs, and that is
Yeah.
definitely a cost. So
It's a 20% markup. It's a lot of money. And people don't think about that when you're really looking at all the numbers. So, we do have to look at that. You look at that because you have, you've also got, insurance, and you have the cost of just upkeep, and you've got a pool companies, and you've got a trash company, and you've got to have someone clean it every single time. That's $180 every single time someone leaves. So you've
yeah.
got all these expenses that you don't think about when you're buying, but you do need to make sure you're plugged in those numbers, and those numbers make really good sense before you make that investment. So that's why we said it has to be able to be rented 75% of the time to make it make
Yeah.
sense.
How do you know that though? I mean, how do you judge that?
We just did the math. We figured out what is it going to cost if we rented it only just to make the mortgage payment, like whatever we've invested in it plus the mortgage.
Yeah.
What is that dollar amount? If that dollar amount is 50K a year annually that we have to have, well, if you're getting 15,000 a month in rentals, then I really only need to rent it 3 months or so to make it
The
profitable.
rest
So
of the year,
the math works really well, right? So that's why you have to just do the math. But if for some reason, and again, that's where we look at the cost of the land is costing us more right now. The cost of buildings costing us more. So it's that same house may be a lot more. what's that going to cost? No, we will charge more, but so you have to really do your due diligence, really make sure that the numbers do make sense, and then make sure that you can cover with rentals what that is going to, cover your own expenses plus all the other, your growth that you foresee. So like we gave ourselves a margin of 25% growth year over year. So as long as we cover the mortgage plus 25% growth, we were fine. We're going to do that. Totally fine. But that was what we chose to do because we want to make sure that we're continuing to put back into the property. We want to be able to like add new elements and make it better and do new things. So to keep it a hot market. So
yeah, I guess I'm a little daft on this, but how did you say, hey, I want to you buy the property first and then you work out the numbers that you have to make, or is it
no, I did the numbers first.
You do the numbers first, then you go buy a property first.
Well, no, we were on vacation when this fell in our lap. So we were looking at, we had some friends of ours that knew that we were investors, and we were on vacation with them, and they had just bought, and they were like, you should buy this too. You've got money to invest, so you should do this. And so we went and looked at it, and we found out what the mortgage would be if we just invested. If we paid cash, we knew what we would spend, or if we did a mortgage, we knew how much that mortgage payment would be. Then we ran the numbers. We spent about 2 days, I think, running numbers. And by the end of the weekend, we put a cash offer plus some other things that we added that we wanted. So we put an offer in. And so we knew that, okay, if this is what we want, this is what it's going to look like financially. Plus you got to add insurance, plus you got to add management fees, and you got to add all these things. And plus we knew we were going to add a pool, and we knew we were going to add landscaping. Who would have thought that landscaping with, coconut trees and, all these different palm trees would cost $28,000. Who knew, right? So you got to do the math on that. Who knew that the pool would end up being 10K more than normal, or, so you just have to make sure you have all those numbers and you plug it in and go, okay, worst case scenario, X is that number. And so then what I need, if we're going to rent it for $700 a night, then because it sleeps 12, then okay, I need it to be rented X amount of time.
Yeah.
So then you go and you look at the other properties nearby, and you see what those rental homes are going for. How long have they been on the market? What are they doing? And when you see like we went to the next door neighbor. Next door neighbor has a home that's a short-term vacation rental. Wasn't nearly as nice as ours, and it was making $60K in rentals a year. So we're like, oh,
okay,
sure, we're fine. All right, we're good. So you just have to do your research, make sure that it's something that you're worth doing, and then don't be afraid to just dig in and figure out how to do it yourself and do a lot of it to save yourself the money. That's why I said we did the Google Our Business, and we did our own website, and we did all of our own Facebook advertising, and we did all that ourselves. And literally within a week, from the moment that we launched it to, I think it was 7 or 8 days later, we were booked solid for the whole season.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, if you do that so well, and most a lot of these people that do VRBOs or Airbnb, they'll just go to Airbnb and wait for that traffic to come in. Now you're creating a system where 3,000 people are coming to your website every month. Yeah, I gotta believe there's some value into that. Other people coming to you and saying, I need that help.
Yeah, and what we also found too, we didn't want to wait on a company to fill our home for us. Like that, that's just not in my DNA. Like my husband and I both were like, we're not waiting on someone to fill this. We'll do it ourselves. Like, we have the skill set. He's a marketer, I'm a marketer. We can do it ourselves. And so we did. And then we realized how fast it filled, and we're like, well, now we need more houses. Like we need to keep filling them up. Like we found.
I'm playing Monopoly here.
Yeah. So now it's like, okay, I need another one. I need another property. So but then we also realized long term that we want to be above everyone else. So you have to look at what are you standing about. Like when we looked at what everybody else in that area was at, most of them that live on the beach just had a regular beach home. Well, they didn't have a pool, or they didn't have a golf cart that went with it. So then we were like, okay, well, we'll invest 50K into a pool, we'll buy a golf cart, we'll add these elements that makes ours stand out. So when someone's Googling and they see our property, it's the first thing they want. Then
Yeah.
what we did is we created a contest for to see who we could get that would book it while we were still building. Like, so for example, like in the building phase, like we still had the pool being built, so we couldn't really rent it to people for money, but it was empty while we were building all this construction. So we had people that would go and spend the weekends and then write us reviews. So we built our reviews up real fast before it even went on the market. So there's just
Yeah.
things that you can do that gets you up to that level real quickly without you really having to do a whole lot.
That's cool. And that's from marketing. You learned that from your affiliate days and everything.
It's been fun. It's been fun to see it grow, and we're definitely growing with it. We're learning a lot along the way. So
Yeah. So, I mean, what's next? Because, sometimes you get into business and you first get into it and you build this foundation. It goes, you know what? How do I move up? And how do I move up? And how do I move up? Is there something different after this? Like, is it still owning all the properties like Monopoly, or is it owning Boardwalk, different types of properties?
oh, it's different streams of income for sure. Like my son, and you guys know Coach Adam. Adam has been my dear friend for many, many years. My son, I have three boys, 29, 27, and 24. My 24-year-old wants us to buy a gaming store through Adam. And so who knows? That's been on the table about us possibly buying a gaming store. We are currently looking at buying into a partnership and doing more so of what Roland teaches with the zero money down, but we're going to do more of an earning interest.
Yeah.
But we are looking at acquiring. So very interesting. I don't want to say too much, but it's local, and down in Austin. They have a place called Rainy Street, and it's a street full of different bars and restaurants, and they have live music, and it's just become like the happening place to be. Well, where we live, they've created another one like that, and the people that started it 3 years ago are struggling, and they don't know how to market it to get it really hopping, and they need a little bit of investors too. So we are in talks with them to, I think, take that on, which is something random that we've never done before: live music and restaurants and
Bars, alcohol, I
bars.
mean,
So such a
food.
different beast. I'm going to have to learn all those laws because that's a very different beast.
Yeah.
But it's also in the same field of it's a very different revenue stream, and it's different. I like different. I like doing things that are different and that really expand us. So I'm kind of almost positive we're about to take that one on. We've still got a little bit of more due diligence and meet with their attorneys, but that one's probably going to come to fruition.
Yeah. So you can see immediately what you need to do to that. I mean, that's the deal with the earn-ins. I mean, they're not going to invite you unless you can bring something to the table that they can't do, which is the marketing. And
Well, that one, and this is what Roland teaches. It's all about proximity and getting out there, right? So this one just happened to be that my husband and I had a date night, and we went and decided to go watch live music, and we sat there and had a drink, and we were just sitting there enjoying the band, and noticed all these little restaurants and places, and we went up to the bar, and I could tell that the one lady and her husband were the owners. You could tell.
they're
And
probably working around the clock.
they
opening,
were, and
closing. Yeah.
yep. And I struck up a conversation with her, and it was funny enough that within 15 minutes, and it was just a very frank, it was just fun conversation. My granddaughter was there running around playing, and she's like, yeah, there's so much more we could do to this place, but we need investors and we need, help. And I was like, well, I mean, and it just like all of a sudden,
Another way to do this.
I was like, well, let's have another drink and let's sit down and let's talk about this. And so, I mean, and then like an hour and a half later, and then now we're going on a month that we've been in conversations and in serious conversations with, property and attorneys, and where what that'll look like. And so what was so funny was we just went there though for, to have a drink and watch a band. And so and then my husband at first was not, no, it's really not we're not looking for anything that we have to have another job. And it felt like it when we were watching them. But then when we've gone back, I don't know, like 6 or 7 times, and we've been watching, and I'm like, we don't have to work it. We just have to give them the skill set and hire them the right people to have them do it. They just didn't have that. And
Yeah.
so there's so much more we can bring and help them and get it scaled and make this huge and make it another big, huge um, live entertainment place where we live, and scale it. So I'm kind of, it's actually something I'm excited about just because I've never done that before. I've never
Yeah.
had a live entertainment company. So,
Nor am I. Yeah. So I have
but
no
you got to
expertise
think
in that
outside
area
of
at
the
all.
box. You got to think outside of the box a little bit. And you just, like I said, it's all about conversations and proximity. So we didn't go there looking for that. Just like we didn't look for the Airbnbs when we was on vacation. Like those
Yeah,
things.
you're doing that. I mean, you're tapping in, like you're letting the universe talk to you and say, hey, keep your eyes open for this. And you did it at the hospital, you did it at
Yep.
your vacation, you did it at the restaurant.
Yep. You just
Yeah.
have to. Like once you become an investor in your mind and you
Yeah.
start thinking along those lines as I'm an investor and I want to create revenue streams, different multiple revenue streams, then that's how you think. You're just thinking differently. You're not thinking of, oh, I'm going to go online and start looking for businesses. No, they'll come to you based on you changing your mindset.
Being yourself and like going to a restaurant or doing whatever you do. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you go to all the war rooms and all the other masterminds?
My team and I, we put them on. Yes.
Oh my God, that's like the $1 million, $1 billion intelligence you hear going in and out of these things. That's awesome.
I'm I'm a very lucky girl to be able to get all that information and still do my job and take it all in. So yes,
Yeah.
I'm very blessed.
Now your husband, you guys are copacetic about, the information that flows back. Do you guys have like the same mindset in that when you're talking?
No, we're very different, but yet very much alike. We're very competitive. Both of us are extremely competitive, and we don't like losing. We like to run and just do things quickly. Um, but we're very different in our mind. Like he's very skilled in sales and marketing. I've got marketing too, but I also think differently than him. And so yeah, we have a lot that complements each other, but a lot that is very competitive and very much we hold each other accountable. So luckily for us, when we both knew that we wanted to start investing a couple years ago, we just decided that this is what we want to look for when we do it. And now not everything. There's things that I find and he's just like, nope. And then there's things that he's fine and I'm like, nope. And
Like I just saw some
we are
interview with
allowed that
Charlie.
veto.
Yeah,
We
I
do
just
get
saw
rid of
some interview with Charlie Munger just saying, hey, sometimes I get to say, no, that's a stupid idea, Warren Buffett.
Yep. Yep. Right. So we are allowed that, but
Yeah.
no. But again, and we both are we want to leave a legacy for our children and our grandchildren, and
Yeah.
so it's very important for us that we're finding things that will help create that for them and give them their peace of mind. And then also we're not spring chickens either, so we want to make sure that we're creating that business. So it's been fun.
Yeah.
It's
I know.
been
Is he full time? He full time with you guys, or
he's the vice no my husband's the vice president of a separate company,
Oh,
so
okay.
we are not in the same company. But
Yeah. And
yeah,
your kids, I mean, they're all grown. I mean, they're
all
old.
my kids are grown. They're 29, 27, 24. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And they have separate jobs or doing entrepreneurial stuff.
they are not. Now, our youngest, our 24-year-old, is entrepreneurial. He actually works with my husband and does sales and marketing for my husband's company. But the 27 and the 27-year-old is actually a stockbroker. He's got his
Okay.
Series 10 license. He went on his own path, but he did a very great job. I'm proud of him. So he's does that. And then our 29-year-old also manages companies, but he does more of the automotive companies. And so very different skill sets. I would like to see them someday come into the companies that we create and help run them, but we'll
Yeah.
never make them. It's always something, if they want to, great. If not, then that's great as well.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Anyway, we've almost done 45 minutes and I really appreciate the time. I really
You're
appreciate it. I mean, I just like there's so much that you're seeing behind the scenes. Like, where do you keep getting the ideas? Well, it's proximity to power, being in the war room and doing your affiliate program and hanging around people that are, doing bigger and bigger things, and you're doing so many different things with this Airbnb, but you're adding a different layer on it, but you're also keeping your just your mind open to what the universe is telling you. He's like, hey, this lady needs help. I'm going to ask. You're almost like that Geico lady at the beach going, where she said, somebody else starts talking about, gosh, I wish I could bundle my home and auto together in my boat. And she runs over there and it goes, I'm going to have a conversation with him. Yeah.
But I think it's true. Like, I think once you change your mindset to where you are an investor and you're wanting to go do these deals, and they just, you find it, it becomes, it falls into your conversations without you even meaning to. I've been on Clubhouses. I think I've mentioned this before on an Epic call once, that I was on Epic call, or I'm sorry, I was on a Clubhouse with some friends of mine. We have a business women entrepreneur group that we do. It's called Coffee in the Clubhouse every Friday for women entrepreneurs. And we were just talking, and people know that I invest, and this friend of mine, she also invests, and she does real estate, and she, just like me, it just rolls. We're just talking about what we're investing in, what we're doing, and how we're doing things. It's not like we're targeting anyone in particular, but someone on that call actually was like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to y'all after the Clubhouse. How can I reach you? And we're like, we gave our information. And then an hour later, this person reaches out and is like, okay, so my next door neighbor is in Oklahoma. They live in Oklahoma, and they have this garbage disposal company. And I mean, you asked me if I was ever going to do a garbage disposal company. No
way.
The garbage, right? But then she's like, but look, the husband and wife died, the kids inherited, the kids want nothing to do with this garbage company. And I'm like, okay, do you know the numbers? Because I'm not into garbage, and she started spouting the numbers, and the numbers was incredible. And I'm like, let's have another conversation. So my friend started having this conversation with her, and my friend is actually going to do the business, and I may jump on it with her, but it's an incredible deal that if it comes to true fruition, it's an amazing deal.
Yeah.
Because the kids just want the cash. They want out. They don't want anything to do with this garbage company. Their parents died and they just want money. But the business, what they're asking was like less than $1 million, and the company itself is doing 4.7 million a year.
Holy cow.
I was like, dude, let's talk. But my point of that is that just happened on a Clubhouse. Like, literally, we were just talking, and then before you know it, a couple hours later, we're all having this phone call, and it's just gone into different things. So there's so much. I think it's just whether or not you're just thinking differently and talking and letting people know that you're an investor, that you're looking for deals, and people will just add. Like, I didn't know who this person was from Adam. I'd seen her on the calls a couple times, but I didn't know her. And I definitely wasn't looking for garbage company in Oklahoma. Like, I live in Texas, So that's what I'm saying about just having your mindset change and letting people know, then things just come to you, and you can pick and choose what you think is going to be a good fit, or you send it off to your other friends, and then maybe you get a piece of the deal. Like, there's just so many different ways to do that, but you just have to change your mindset.
Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, I get a lot of people on LinkedIn from Epic reach out to me and says like, hey, how do I get deal flow? And I said, well, it's massive action. I mean, if you're doing LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, if you're doing direct mail, I mean, Jeff Charlton talks about that. If you're networking, you're doing Clubhouse, you just got to do it all till you get that flow in. Yeah.
And then once the flow starts coming, you're so swamped, then you create like an affiliate network where you can give it out to other people. But I mean, that's where Roland is the master. Like, Roland has created this to where he gets so many deals because they just come in all the time, and they're big deals, and he can be a little bit pickier on things because he's got so many, but it's because he has worked so hard to get in that space and let people know what he does. And he's a brilliant, at what he does with that. So again, but you have to start somewhere, right? Yeah. So like, I'm not Roland Frazier, but I started somewhere, and I'm getting to the point now where things are coming a lot easier. I'm having conversations that are much easier, and things are rolling in a different path for us just because I'm thinking on a different level. And
And how to
everyone,
have those
everyone has.
conversations with a restaurant owner and a garbage disposal owner about the business. That's like two different, but it's the same.
It's all the same when you're like, well, are you interested in are they interested in selling? Like
You gotta, you gotta
that's
raise your
literally
voice
all I
like
ask.
Roland jokes at. Are you interested in selling?
That's exactly what I said to the lady on the call. I was like, well, are they interested in selling? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, then let's chat. Like it was literally those two sentences. And then here's my phone number. Call me when this call is over, and that's all it was. And the restaurant, the restaurant thing that we're looking at was literally I'm standing at the bar ordering a margarita, and I noticed her, and I was like, I knew, people that are owners just have a different look and feel, and I just knew they had to be the owners. So I just happened to walk up and I was like, man, do you own this? And yes. And I'm like, man, you've done a great job. I didn't even realize this existed. And I complimented her. And then as she's like, well, I mean, I'm so tired. Like, I live and breathe this. And I'm like, girl, you've done an amazing job. So I started with compliments, and then I was curious, and I'm like, my mind, I'm curious. I just like to know numbers. I'm like, I'm just curious. How long have you been here? What have you done to get this going? Are you on Facebook? I've never seen you before. And before you know it, she's like, well, yeah, but me and my husband started this grassroots. We started it with a trailer in the middle of a lot, 3 years ago. And we started with $5,000. And she's like, and now we're doing this, this, and this. And I'm like, man, I'm like, are you doing this, this, and this? And before she's like, no, but I really wish I had an investor that would help. And I'm like, oh, well,
Well, I'm gonna just
well,
put you up like a hook in a fish line.
I did. And then it just morphed, right? But that's that conversation. I never went in making that conversation awkward. I never went in like at a bull in a china shop and said, no, it was conversational. And it was me complimenting her on what she had done. And I could tell she was tired. I could tell that she had worked her tail off to create this. But I could also see from what I was looking at, my gosh, this is like a gold mine that could have so much more. Like, you could have a dance floor, and you could have more restaurants over here, and you could have a play area up here for kids. You could have an outdoor dance, a dance hall over here. You could have this. And I mean, my mind just started, and I'm like, I wonder why she's not doing this. And so then as I started thinking those things, I'm like, well, I'm going to ask her, and then it came to it. She's just like, well, I mean, my husband and we just don't have the funds because we're doing this ourselves. And I'm like, oh, wow. And she's like, but I'm looking for investors. I'm like,
Yeah, they're in the
wow.
business. They're sucked
They
in.
are working. They are working it. She's a hairdresser, and she just turns every bit of her profit into this to make it go. And she needs investors to make it run. But I never would have gotten that information had I not have just complimented her and told her what a great job she was doing, because it's an amazing property with
Yeah.
all these, all this information. And before you know it, an hour and a half later, she'd already given me some of her financials verbally. She'd already told me
An
what
hour
she
and
was
a half, she gave you
doing.
financials? Oh my
No,
God.
within an hour and a half. And she'd give me the financials of what she was paying for rent on property, what she was charging. She had told me what she was looking for an investor, like an hour and a half later, because we just hit it off conversationally. So what I always try to tell people is be authentic, be real, just let people know that you're investing, and don't try too hard, because when you try too hard, it comes off fake. But when you're genuinely just looking out there for things, they just fall in your lap, and it's just organic.
That's beautiful. And we're going to end on that. Yeah, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate this, man. You are really the glue that brings this together, because I've tried to be that person that goes, hey, could you finish your question off? We need the next question going, and you do a great job of that.
Oh,
You
thank
guys have done a
you.
great job of the whole package, the whole epic course. Thank you so much.
You know what? Thank you. Thank you for interviewing me. I love you guys, and it's just such a pleasure to work with all of you Epic members. I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's a great group of people.
Awesome. Well, thanks, John. I appreciate you.
Thank you, DeAnna.
All right. Bye.
Bye.